I want to talk a little bit about the most recent shooting of a black person in this country. The killings of African American people, as we all know, have been going on and have been justified since slavery. The audacity of criminalizing black people have been going on since slavery. Obviously, there's a misunderstanding in terms of our history in this country and what African Americans are expected to do and what other Americans are expected to do in order to live. Time after time, when we see African Americans being gunned down by the hands of police, it is often justified. The irony in this is that during the time of enslavement, slavery as well as lynching was justified. I remember watching the movie called The Butler, and there was a scene in the movie where the butler, who happened to be a young boy at the time of the scene of the movie, was in the field. I don't know what they were doing, picking cotton. I have no idea. On, I guess, a plantation or a home or whatever. And the butler was a little boy picking the cotton along with his father. And the white man, I guess being the master or whatever, came out into the field and went inside the house and what appears to have been having sex with the butler's mother. Now keep in mind, the butler, the little boy at the time, had a father. So the father saw it, and the little boy turned around and asked his father what was he going to do about it. And the father tried to quiet his son, and then I guess he thought about it, and as the white guy walked out, I guess, of the slave quarters or the quarters where black people lived on this site or plantation, he then asked the white man, he turned and looked at him straight in the eye, and then the white man shot him. Then shortly after that scene, there was another scene where the white woman of the house of the plantation or the site or whatever told the butler, who then again was a little black boy, that he shouldn't weep, he shouldn't cry. It's not a matter of America understanding African American people's pain. It is a matter of them acknowledging it, and then we, the people, taking the control in our hands to change it. Many different groups in this country have received reparations. But African Americans are not one of them. The Japanese receive reparations. The Native Americans receive some form of reparations still today, although those forms may not be perfect to the Native Americans. They still receive some form of reparations. But when it comes to the African Americans, they were promised 40 acres and a mule, and they've received nothing but continued justification of killing. The other problem I have with this, and I'm sure many other Americans have the same problem, is that when we see a mass shooting of someone that's not black, let's say they're a white American, 9 times out of 10, or at the very least 75% of the time, right after that person just did a mass shooting, they're able to be taken alive. One of the most excuses for justifying killing a black person, and in this most recent event of Jacob Blake, they talked about that he had a record, some sort of sexual assault or whatever. And from what I understand, he has not even gone to court yet on it. He has a warrant out for him or something to that nature. But don't quote me, because that's not the point that I'm making here. The point that I'm making is that when they are white, it appears that they can just finish doing a crime, such as a mass shooting. Everyone knows they're the ones responsible for doing the mass shooting, and somehow magically they can step out of it alive. Now let's take the incident that did just recently happen in Kenosha, Wisconsin, with the protests after Jacob Blake's death. What happened? 2 or 3 days into the protests in Kenosha, some young, mainly I'm assuming or all white militia, wanted to make sure they protect their land and their country and their property, and maybe even some people, I don't know. One of which included a 17-year-old white male who took it upon himself to drive from Illinois into Wisconsin. Didn't take him long to get there. I'm sure it's somewhere on the line. And magically, he ends up killing 2 and injuring 1 with an AR, whatever, or an AK-47. Nonetheless, it was a rifle. He then walks in front of the police officers' brigade, where the lights are shining very bright, and they do nothing. Now, granted, for this young man, who I believe is the age of 17, he may not have had a record. But as I mentioned, many times we've seen in this country where people who are not black commit massive shootings, and at that very time, at that very place, at that very moment, they manage to be taken alive. But somehow, there's always a justification for killing a black person. And there always has been since slavery. Anytime an African American was hung in this country, it was justified. Anytime. So now we fast forward to the most recent situation, and we have an irony right before our very eyes where they shoot a black male 7 times. I don't care that he was walking to his car. I don't care that he was opening the door. I don't care. Here's why I don't care. And they shot him in the back 7 times. 2 days later, we have a protest. A white young male under the age of 18 kills 2 people and injures 1, and somehow magically, in the middle of the night during this horrific event that he just committed, was able to walk in front of a brigade of police officers and their lights shining bright with a shotgun of sorts strapped across his body, and not one time was he ever questioned, stopped, or apprehended. He was able to walk along. Clearly, there is a problem in this country, and the problem is that it is justified to kill a black person today as it was justified to kill a black person during slavery.